this, y'all? Facebook. Still a little blurry. Hold on. Top of the day, beautiful people. All right, y'all. Happy Friday. Happy Friday, everybody. Shebra, Vanette, Tabitha, Nazarene, the Singing Dreadful Cosmo, Peace, Love, Lights, and Balance. All right, y'all. It's Friday. It is November the 18th, 2022, day 265 of year 4 of reading through the books of the law and the prophets and of the 4-year consecutive day counts, day 1285. Today, we back in the book of Sathantes. I think we're going to finish it up today. We're going to pick up on page 33, chapter 20. And then after we get done here, we're going to hop right over to the field guide to the spirit world, pick up on page 88 in chapter 4, entitled Soul Murder. Lavon, blessings, Hannah, Grand Rising. That's Sarai Yahoo 777, Grand Rising. And everybody else here hanging out in the background. Top of the morning to you. Set apart, Ema. Hey, girl, hey. All right, y'all. So let's see. The morning adoration and the ending the starting and the ending adoration is almost the same, but just a little bit different. So, Father, we thank you for the womb, because without it, we would not be born. All right. Chapter 20, page 33, or chapter XX if you have the electronic copy and you can only see the Roman numerals, right? I wrote all the English numbers beside them, or shall I say Latin numbers. All right, y'all. Chapter 20, page 33. Ajin stepped down and stood at the foot of the throne. Masters of the inner temple gathered about the star and unrolled a carpet reaching across the threshold, and the two goddesses stepped forth. Remember, this is Etizii and Unzi. And the two goddesses stepped forth from the crystal cushion within the star and glided as if on a ray of light up to the judgment seat of Jehovah. Meanwhile, the musicians, a million of voices, chanted, "Glory, glory to Jehovah, creator of worlds, whose place magnificence is and counterpart to endless time. The all whose great existence surpasseth the grandest thoughts of men and gods, whose worlds and splendor are the scrolls on which his hands write with the souls of mortals his almighty will and boundless love." That is amazing. Let me read that again. The all whose great existence surpasses the grandest thoughts of men and gods, whose worlds and splendor are the scrolls on which his hands write with the souls of mortals his almighty will and boundless love. And now did spread out and round about the wheels of the great ship of fire, and all the millions of hosts, men and women, archangels and gods and goddesses, formed a mighty amphitheater, a mighty amphitheater in which Moab, with his 33 million brides and bridegrooms of Jehovah, occupied the arena, themselves arrayed in white, but differently from the redeeming hosts from the Etherian worlds. In time to the music, without a word of command, moved the host as one person moveth. They in unison moved, and each as a shining crystal in the place allotted, and void in nothing, and all so perfect, as if Jehovah had made each a special work of wonder to inspire men with reverence for the talents he had created withal. In the same time, the hosts were forming in place. So was the time of the music, and when the music ceased, all was still. The throne was in the east, facing the west. The hosts of Moab, who were the brides and bridegrooms of Jehovah, occupied the lower plain, and the Etherians surrounded them on all sides, raising higher and higher in the distance. God and Haja met the goddess met the goddesses at the foot of the throne. God knew Onzi hundreds of years before in other worlds, and he remembered Etizai, who had crowned him 200 years ago. So also did Haja know Etizai and Onzi. When they met, they all saluted by touching the right hands, and immediately the goddesses ascended to the center of the throne, and God went on the right and Haja on the left. Etizia and Onzi looked hopefully on the brides and bridegrooms, but were passive. Presently, the voice of Jehovah spake out of the light of the throne, saying, Soul of my soul, substance of my substance, created I man. Out of my corporal self clothe I him with flesh and blood and bones. Man's spirit I gave out of my own spirit, ever present, and I quickened him to move on the face of the earth. I gotta highlight this, y'all. God and the brides and bridegrooms responded, being quickened by the all light. Out of corpore I came, quickened by Jehovah's ever presence. By virtue of his wisdom, power, and love came I into the world. To Jehovah, all glory is due forever. Verse 9, page 34. Again, Jehovah spake, saying, A time I allotted to man to grow, to attain wisdom, power, and love, a time to rejoice and a time of sorrow, a time to beget offspring and know a father's care and love and likeness of me, to know to him gave I attributes of my attributes, that man might know me and my love. Response. By the bondage of my love to my begotten, do I know my Father liveth and reigneth, and will watch over me forever. Again, the voice of Jehovah said, A time in the corporal form I gave to man, that he might learn corporal things, and to learn whence springeth the tree of life. From no self existence of his own made I man, but from myself. And in the place I quickened him into life, I bound him for a season. But when man hath filled his corporal life, I provide death to deliver him into a new world. Response. Beautiful is thy wisdom, O Jehovah, and far reaching. I was bound in flesh, even as a beast. Likened unto the attributes of a beast was my judgment, struggling for things of the corporal world. With horror I looked upon death. As a sore calamity did I value thy cutting me off. But thou deliverest me into another world, preserving my judgment whole, bringing me to the heavens of my forefathers. Then Jehovah said, In no time brought I man newborn into the world, without a mother and a nurse and rich nourishment to feed him withal. Yea, I gave him angels to inspire him and lift him up, and I provided a Lord of the earth to manage his kingdoms and nations, and God in heaven with a throne and judgment seat, that man in the angel world, that man in the angel world should be provided and wisely instructed in soul to comprehend the glory and harmony of my worlds. Let me read that again. That's good. Tikva, Jamia, Anita. Hey, girls. Hey. Let me go back up. Verse 13. Then Jehovah said, In no time brought I man newborn into the world, without a mother and a nurse and rich nourishment to feed him withal. Yea, I gave him angels to inspire him and lift him up, and I provided a Lord of the earth to manage his kingdoms and nations, and a God in heaven with a throne and judgment seat, that man in the angel world should be provided and wisely instructed in soul to comprehend the glory and harmony of my worlds. Response. Bountiful, O my Father above, from nothing that I knew of, Thou broughtest me into conscious being, and in my helpless days fed me with rich nourishment. Thou gavest me rulers and examples of government on the earth to discipline my soul to the order of men. And when I was born in heaven, I found God on this throne and well ordered. I found God on his throne and a well ordered haven of rest, with willing angels to clothe me and feed me and teach me the ways of thy kingdoms in thy firmament. I kid you not, I did not look ahead. I know we read through this, but ain't no way I could have remembered this when I thought of my adoration for beginning and ending today. And it's talking about being born into this world through our mother's womb and being born into the next world. This is amazing. Well, my camera still looks blurry over here on Facebook. You can see, but it looks weird from my end. Okay. Verse 15, page 34. Again, Jehovah said, when man hath fulfilled his time in the lower heaven, I prepare him by ample teachers for a higher resurrection. As brides and bridegrooms, my hosts adorn them, and I come in a sea of fire. First was man wedded to the earth, by me solemnized, and without man's knowledge. Then to the lower heaven was he wed, laboring with spirits and mortals. The voice departed, and now Onzi spoke, saying, behold, the brides and bridegrooms of Jehovah. When they were young, they were wed first to the earth, and then to the lower heaven without their wills. Now they stand before the throne of God. In thy name, O Jehovah, I command them to speak their wills. Response: I put away myself for thee, O Jehovah. Make me one with thee. I put away the earth for thy kingdom's sake, O Jehovah. Make me one with thee. I put away thy Lord and thy God, O Jehovah, for the sake of thee. Thy Lord and thy God raised me up and made me strong. But lo, the small spark of thyself within my soul hath grown to be a giant, bowing to none but thee, O Jehovah. O make me thy bridegroom, O Jehovah. Onzi said, the lame and the weak shall have a crutch, but the glory of the Father is to see his brides and bridegrooms walk alone. Whoever to Jehovah is wed shall never more to this man, nor that man, nor woman, nor Lord, nor God, nor any or person or thing for self's sake, say help. Let me read that again. Verse 18. Onzi said, the lame and the weak shall have a crutch, but the glory of the Father is to see his brides and bridegrooms walk alone. Whoever to Jehovah is wed shall never more to this man, nor that man, nor woman, nor Lord, nor God, nor to any person or thing for self's sake say help. Response: God and the Lord were my saviors. Without them, I had never known the exalted heavens, O Jehovah. Thy spirit calleth me forever upward. Thy Lord and thy God taught me to look upward. Yea, they prayed for me. Now I am strong before thee, O Jehovah. Henceforth will I pray to thee only, but never for my own benefit, nor for glory, nor for ease, nor for rest, nor for exaltation, but that I may be quick and strong and wise to do thy will forever. Onzi said, brides and bridegrooms of Jehovah, all hail, all hail. Response: voice of Jehovah, all hail, all hail. Onzi said, to Jehovah and his everlasting kingdoms are ye wed forever. Response: to thee, O Jehovah, am I wed forever. Onzi said, to be one with him forever. Response: to be one with Jehovah forever. The voice of Jehovah said, they shall judge from my judgment seat. In them shall my wisdom shine, for they are mine forever. Response: to consider thee first in all things, O Jehovah, shall I henceforth forever. The voice said, behold, I have woven a crown for them, adorned them for my sake. Response: I will have no crown, save that which is woven by thee, O Jehovah. For thy sake will I wear thy crown forever. The voice said, Behold, they that were my sons and daughters have become my brides and bridegrooms. They are mine forever. Response, I am Jehovah's forever. Onzi said, Pass before the throne, O my beloved. The testimony of Jehovah awaiteth his redeemed. Ye shall dwell in the emancipated kingdoms forever. And now the host of brides and bridegrooms passed singly before the throne of God. The whole 33 million passed. And the Esenars chanted a hymn of glory. And there came down from the firmament above mists of yellow, blue, and red. And the mist fell into the archangel's hands who stood about the throne, and by them was converted into crowns, the which were placed on the heads of the brides and bridegrooms. And on the crowns were the words, in Wan, W-A-N, and Wan brought forth, delivered, and Hanshi. As the host passed in front of the throne, Onzi said, By that which springeth out of the earth is the Atmospherian fed and clothed, but the Etherian draweth from the Etherian worlds. Behold, the crowns of the earth and of the lower heaven are but symbols of power, wisdom, and love. But that which I bring from Jehovah's kingdom containeth real virtue. And lo and behold, the brides and bridegrooms became as archangels by virtue of the crowns from Jehovah's hand. I know our graduation is hundreds of years away, but I'm super excited about this. Our girl, Shalom, Elijah, Kevin, Shalom, brothers. Animalistic nature, Shalom, Shalom. Okay, chapter 21, page 35, y'all. And it's chapter XXI in Roman numerals, if that's all you have. Okay. When the ceremonies were ended, Onzi said, Soon, now in the name of the Father, will we rise and go on a long journey, and that ye may be apprised and consorted in love, I proclaim the freedom of the hour in Jehovah's name. And the people went and mingled with each other, rejoicing and saluting. And Haja and God and Etizai greeted one another, and the lords came forward and were also greeted. And then the marshals and the Esenars and all long-serving laborers. And lastly, all that had redeemed any man or woman from darkness to light came also and were saluted and duly honored. Remember, God here in this at this present time is Athantes, right? Okay, just in case y'all forgot. And remember, for each I ain't gonna say era, but they shift during each period. I ain't gonna say every Dan, but I think Dan Ha, if I remember correctly. All right. Verse 3. And for the space of 1 hour, all the angels indulged in revelry, reunion, and fullness of heart, but no book could relate the thousandth part of the questions asked and love assurances expressed. When the hour was ended, Onzi signaled the proper officer, and he sounded the gavel thrice, whereupon was all hushed and still. Onzi said, As Jehovah bestowed a newborn child, so also doth he take the father and the mother away to the S world. As Jehovah sent Etizai, my sister, to establish a lower heaven, so have I come by his command to bear hence this harvest to the everlasting kingdom. As a child bewaileth the loss of its father and mother, so will ye that remain bewail the loss of this rich harvest of archangels.
Last night was one of the nights, right?
Mm-hmm.
I seen you come around the corner. I'm like,
oh yeah, when Jeremiah was talking to you, I seen you coming back in the house about midnight. I was like, yeah, go ahead, son.
Man, I was fighting it, man. I was bad.
I seen you.
Hey man, I'm gonna go fill your water bottle up.
Yeah, when I seen you walking back in the house with that orange bottle, I'm like, yeah, he got up and went. I just giggled. All right. Love you too, son. All right. Okay, verse 6. Okay, he was talking about that was my oldest son. They had got back at the gym, and you know how sometimes you on a roll, and then you want to take a break, you just don't feel like it. He had already decided, yeah, I ain't going today. So Jeremiah up, he leaving. He hyping him up at the door. He said, "Come on, bro, just get on up. Come on, you'll feel better once you get there." He said, "Nah, I ain't going. I'm gonna just chill out today." He had already got him his dinner and everything. Was laying across the bed, and I didn't know what they was talking about. I just came to the door, looked in, you know. And I guess I don't know. He said he saw my face. I ain't say nothing. I just smiled. I said, "Hey, son." He said, "Hey, mom," and he just started laughing because he was just saying, "Yeah, I'm glad I got back in the gym." He said, "I'm seeing a little bit of results and stuff." He said, "I'm back on it." He said, "I can't take them long breaks." And this is what he was just saying to me a couple of days ago. So when Jeremiah was in there, like, "Come on, bro, just you gonna be good. Just get on up. I'll drive. You ride with me." He said, "No, bro, I'm gonna stay here. I'm gonna chill out today. I'll get back in there tomorrow." But when I came back in there, he was like, he saw my face, and I ain't say, "No, I didn't know what they was talking about." I just kind of heard when I got there, Jeremiah had started saying that. And he said he looked at me and I smiled and said, "Hey, mom." And so I guess he thought about it. And so that's I was like, yeah, I seen him coming back in the house because our gym is 24 hours. The one they go to, it got heavier weights there because the ones out here in the garage ain't doing nothing for them. They lifting a lot of weight while I'm struggling trying to get the bar that weighs 45 pounds up back. So I don't put no weight. My husband trying to add. I said, don't, I can barely lift the bar. What are you doing? So, but yeah, anyway, so that's what he was saying. He got on up. He didn't let his flesh talk to him. He just got on up. He said he glad he did. So I'm like, yay, son. Look, one day at a time, right? All right. Page 35. We at verse 6. It is Jehovah's will that ye drink deep of the sorrow of parting, for by this bondage will ye be again reunited in the heavens still above. The progress of the soul of man is forever onward and in steps and plateaus, and the glory of the resurrection of him that goeth before is equally as great as is the sorrow of him that remaineth behind. Meaning we are forever growing, right? If you think you're getting out of something by leaving here or trying to leave here early, you run into the same stuff because we were created to continually progress. Read from 5. I sure will, Shebrew. Okay, let me go back up. Let me just go to 4. When the hour was ended, Onzii signaled the proper officer, and he sounded the gavel thrice. Whereupon all was hushed and still. Onzi said, "As Jehovah bestowed a newborn child, so also doth he take the father and mother away to the S world. As Jehovah sent Etizai, my sister, to establish the lower heaven, so have I come by his command to bear hence this harvest to his everlasting kingdom. As a child bewaileth the loss of its father and mother, so will ye that remain bewail the loss of this rich harvest of archangels. It is Jehovah's will that ye drink deep of the sorrow of parting, for by this bondage will ye again be reunited in the heavens still above. The progress of the soul of man is forever onward and in steps and plateaus, and the glory of the resurrection of him that goeth before is equally great as is the sorrow of him that remaineth behind. But the love that bindeth together is as a chain outstretched across the universe." That is amazing. But the love that bindeth together is a chain outstretched across the universe, nor time nor distance shall prevail against the inventions thereof. This just reminded me about that little phrase that I shared with y'all yesterday. Yo, hold on. I need a different color. I already got that highlighted in yellow from the first time, but I didn't highlight this bottom part. Listen, remember yesterday when I was saying how I'm beginning to understand a little bit more about love just by simply listening to that little phrase from I'm gonna read it again. I read it like 4 times yesterday. Listen. We're on page 35, chapter 21, verse 6. And I'm gonna read it again. This little phrase from Glass, right? That the doctor she said, the power of true, loving physical affection is like something supernatural. It's the lack of it that caused this, and only the true version of it can heal it. Referring to the guy with the multiple personality disorders, right? He got that way because of the abuse and the love that his mother didn't give to him. And in order to heal that malady or that disorder, not just him, but anybody, it's the absolute opposite, right? It's only the true version of it, the true version of love that can heal it, right? Remember how I was saying to y'all yesterday, and as I was looking at the common thread, going through chapter 221. Oh, you added an extra two, she brew. I'm like, 220. Am I off? No, it's chapter 21, Book of Sathantes, page 35, if you got Big Blue. Chapter 22, yeah, verse 5. Um, yeah, it's the true version of love that can heal it. And I thought of another example yesterday that I wish I would have said yesterday, but now that we're talking about it again, it's come back up. You know how? Okay, so remember I showed a picture with the girl touching the guy who was demon possessed, Kevin and Casey, right? So you notice when she touched him, it calmed down the beast and it actually brought the native spirit Kevin forth, right? If you are married, it doesn't even have to be if you're married, but I've seen it a lot simply because I'm married and I've tested it. This is something that I learned. And I thought we didn't keep this counselor for long, but we learned. So at least I learned something from him. I'll say we learned because the next time I remembered it and I put it into place. You know, that was probably about the only thing that we took from that counseling session in the early 2000s from this one. It was a real marriage counselor, the office that we had went to. But he was saying a lot of times when people are arguing, especially couples, when the situation gets heated, he said he's found that even he said one of the ways to kind of put that fire out a little bit, he said you simply just need to touch one another. Or when you have conversation, try to like hold hands. It's like, what the crap? Probably didn't say what the crap at that time. I'm like, what do you mean? First of all, we arguing. Don't touch me. Don't get away from get my hand, but like, right, because you all in your feelings and stuff, right? But I found it to be true. Anger seems to subside if you can just lay your hand. Look, if you can just lay your hands on them, not smack them or nothing like that, but literally, like if they like pounding on the table or something like that, just kind of get close and just put your hand, just like not like stop it, not like seriously, with the most lovingest touch that you can muster up at that moment, or even just kind of get close and put your arms around them, or go in for a hug. Like, cause sometimes when I be doing the most, and I don't really be snapping off for real, but when I'm angry, and I don't know that I get angry like mad dog type angry. I get really perturbed sometimes. And my husband can tell that. So what he'll do, he'll just come and hug me. He'll catch me from behind, maybe kiss my neck. I'm like, look, get off me. Because I'm no move, don't even move, right? I'm trying to get him off because I realize the loving touch, it does calm the beast within. Until you can like, even if you can't really talk through the problem, a loving touch will calm the beast within, right? And the same thing with children. When you're talking to them, instead of just hollering at them, just kind of grab them close. Listen, baby, even if they did something wrong, you need to adjust your tone. Or if they're hollering, screaming, same thing. We can see this everywhere. It's just these little small things, right? Yeah, it does. Dana, hey girl, hey. Look, it does. She said it does the same things with kids having tantrums. It really does. There's something about touch. And there was like a little, like I said, there was like a little nugget that we learned from this counseling. We just kind of been implementing it without, like connecting the pieces of love and all that stuff. But they are little pieces that we picked up along the way. That's just kind of helped us, right? Especially, and it's a lot of times where we don't. First of all, we arguing, and then by the time we get done arguing, we don't even know what we arguing about, right? We just going on just because we arguing, and we need to see this thing to the end. And then about that time, we realized whatever it was foolish, and we end up laughing. I'm sorry, we end up touching, hugging, kissing, whatever. Anyway, you know. But seriously, um, it said right here at the end of verse 6, the last sentence in verse 6, it says, "But the love that bindeth together is as a chain outstretched across the universe, nor time nor distance shall prevail against the inventions thereof." And like I mentioned yesterday, sometimes we can't see into the S word, into the spirit world on how this love really changes, which is why a lot of times it's like, and now I can kind of understand that, you know, like turn and give your other cheek as well, right? If you Jesus said if if whatever, you get slapped on the right cheek, give him your left cheek too. I'm like, wait, first of all, no, absolutely not. We're gonna be fighting, right? So going through all of this, mom, shalom, shalom. And now, like I said, I'm understanding a little bit more, because over here, if you don't understand the spiritual portion on how love literally, it flows through all levels of life, not just here in the physical world, but it continues on. If we don't see this side, we get it all chopped and screwed over here, and we misunderstand what true love really is, right? Which a lot of times, like I said, when I came out of the Christian church into the Hebrew roots, and you got all this forgiveness and love and all this stuff, and you come over here like, wait a minute, no, you did that to put us under your thumb, and absolutely not. I'm not forgiving my oppressors and all that. You know all that talk, right? We all been there. It's coming out of the Christian church, and it's like, nope, my God ain't no punk, doing all this kind of stuff, but the more I grow, the more I'm kind of like coming back to some of those things. And they're not necessarily bad things, not bad things at all, especially the love portions that we find in the New Testament. So I'm like, oh, okay, well, yeah. And now that I'm reading it scenes gospels, and this is given way more from what the real Joshua, what Christian church calls Jesus, really taught. It really expands on some of that stuff. It doesn't really leave any room for misinterpretation or error. So I'm like, well, oh shoot, huh. Well, I probably need to revisit that. Now, like I said, not everything that you find in the Bible comes from Creator, but there are some things that they've taken and put in there, and they just kind of added a lot of other stuff around it, right? I'm just saying, I just need to step back a little bit and observe a little bit more as I'm bringing in missing pieces. So I'm just like, man, this is amazing. So let me go back up here. I'm gonna reread this again. We'll go back up to verse 4 again. Hold on. Tabitha said, that's why they made the movie King Kong, Touch of Love. King. You know what? I never put that together. The Girl and the Beast. Oh, I'm going to have to watch King Kong again. Sheba said, we know we drain ourselves of energy when someone we love dies. So that same energy we will have when we reunite, because we seeing each other again, crying tears of joy instead of sorrow, but that same energy deep. Yeah, I know, right? That's what I'm about to read this again, Sheba. All right. Verse 4, we're on page 35, chapter 21. Yeah. When the hour was ended, Onzi signaled the proper officer, and he sounded the gavel thrice, whereupon all was hushed and still. Onzi said, as Jehovah bestoweth a newborn child, so also doth he take the father and mother away to the S world. As Jehovah sent Etizai, my sister, to establish the lower heaven, so have I come by his command to bear hence this harvest to his everlasting kingdom. As a child bewaileth the loss of its father and mother, so will ye that remain bewail the loss of this rich harvest of archangels. It is Jehovah's will that ye drink deep of the sorrow of parting, for by this bondage will ye be again reunited in the heavens still above. The progress of the soul of man is forever onward, in, and in steps and plateaus. And the glory of the resurrection of him that goeth before is equally great, as is the sorrow of him that remaineth behind. But the love that bindeth together is as a chain outstretched across the universe, nor time nor distance shall prevail against the inventions thereof. Swift messengers, well trained to course the vault of heaven, will pass between you, carrying the tidings of your soul. And as Jehovah And as Jehovah giveth summer to follow winter, and the winter the summer, so also shall the time come again and again forever, in which ye shall mingle and part, again labor together, but in broader fields, and again part for a season. And back down towards the middle of that verse where it says, so also shall the time come again. After come is reference number 12, and 12 at the bottom says, shall the time come again, and come is in square brackets. Okay, go back up to verse 8. Yahweh Shalom. Miss Amazing Wonders. Hey girl, hey. Behold, the wisdom of Jehovah in placing far apart the places of the souls of men, for all things abiding near together equalize themselves. Let me read that again. Behold, the wisdom of Jehovah in placing far apart the places of the souls of men, for all things abiding near together equalize themselves. Even as there is glory in a new birth, so is there glory in death. As there is sorrow in death, so is there joy in resurrection. The time is now come when these that ye see shall not see for ye. Hold on. The time is now come when these that ye see, ye shall not see for a long season, but ye shall rejoice in this hour of parting, for they rise as brides and bridegrooms to Jehovah. The Essenars sang an anthem of praise, in which all the host united, and great was the glory thereof. And now Onzi arose, saying, Jehovah, almighty and everlasting, holy, holy, creator, ruler and giver forth. Look upon this thy son Haja, O Father, in thy name and by virtue of thy power in me vested, do I perpetuate and crown him God of heaven and earth. Haja, now God said, thy will be done, O Jehovah. Then Onzi turned to the 5 chief lords of the 5 divisions of the earth and bestowed them in like manner. And Onzi stretched forth her hand, saying, give me a crown, O Jehovah, for thy son, God of heaven and earth. And there descended Ethereal substance into her hand, and she raised it up, and lo, it became a crown of great beauty, and she put it on God's, Haja's head. Then, in like manner, did she crown the lords of the earth. So Sathantes is no longer ruling God. It's now Haja, the one who stood in proxy for him as vice president or vice God, while he went traveling for that next year, right? And this is the one whom we know today as Jah. Onzi stretched forth her hand, verse 12, and read again. And Onzi stretched forth her hand, saying, give me a crown, O Jehovah, for thy son, God of heaven and earth. And there descended Ethereal substance into her hand, and she raised it up, and lo, it became a crown of great beauty. And she put it on God's, Haja's head. Then in like manner did she crown the lords of the earth. And Etizai and Onzi came down and sat at the foot of the throne. God, that had been Haja, came down, and Waga and Jude with him. And stretching forth their hands, they said to Etizai, Onzi, and Sathantes, the retiring god, arise, O goddess. Arise. Oh, they said it at the same time. Arise. Oh, arise, O goddess. Arise, O goddess. Arise, O God. Talking about Onzi, Etizai, and Sathantes. And they said, and go thy way. And they rose up and marched forth. The proper officers had already prepared the ship for its Ethereal journey. And soon as Etizai and Onzi had entered the central star, all the people that were to ascend went into the places assigned to them. God, that had been Haja, and the Lords returned in tears to the throne. And now the plateau of everlasting light began to ascend. Music sprang from every side, glorifying Jehovah and the magnificence of his bountiful worlds. Imagine this graduation, y'all. Listen. Okay. And those of the lower heavens were as the echo of the music above, and the light of the ascending ship of fire made all else as a shadow. But higher and higher it arose in the form of a crescent, slowly turning on its upward right axis, turning and rising higher and higher, and the music faded away in the distance. In a little while, the meteor like ascending ship of heaven looked like a star, till farther and farther off it disappeared in the distance. Thus ascended to the emancipated heavens in Ethera, the first harvest of angels born on the earth. Last chapter, no, I'm sorry. We got two more chapters, chapter 22 and 23. Chapter 22 is only 8 verses. Oh my gosh, we have 41 minutes. I'm looking up. Let me look and see if we reached a 30-minute mark yet. I'm gonna finish it, right? I'm gonna just finish it this Friday. And I gotta go somewhere, but it's not until like 9 o'clock. So we're gonna keep going. All right. Page 36. But if y'all gotta go to work, go ahead. Don't be late because of me, right? Jamil, hold your applause to the end. All right. Chapter 22, page 36. God said, "Arise, O lords of my realm, and go to the kingdoms of the earth, which ye receive from Jehovah's hands, and may his wisdom, love, and power be with you all." And the lords departed, they and their attendants, and went to their kingdoms over mortals. And this was the beginning of the second dispensation of the first cycle of the Ethiopian. Hold on, Ethiopian. I'm gonna screw this word up. Eoptian. Eoptian. Eo. Let me. I'm gonna just because I probably should know how to pronounce this. I really should, right? Hold on. Some words I won't look up, but some I really should know how to pronounce. Eot. Eoptian. E Eoptian. Let's see definition.
Action.
No, that is not what I put. E-O. T-I-A-N. I don't have it in here. Well, I'm gonna just keep going. We don't even have definition. E. Okay, we'll leave it alone. I'm gonna look it up later. Now I'm curious. Eo, how you say it? If y'all know how to say it, put it in there. I gotta bring y'all back up. I can't see the live screen. Okay. All right. All right, Elijah. Be safe. All right. Let me go back up here. Verse 3, page 36, chapter 22. And this was the beginning of the second dispensation of the first cycle of the Eoptian age of the earth. And the lower heaven was well established in habitations, angels and officers, and in all the requisites for the upraised soul of mortals. And God dispensed laws and government after the manner of his predecessor, enlarging all the places according to the increase in the number of spirits rising up from the earth. And the voice of Jehovah was with God. And as the first kingdom had been called Horeb, so was the second called Horeb, signifying the place of God. And as it had been with lords of the earth in their places, so continued it with new lords, and they enlarged their places also, even according to the increase in the number of inhabitants of the earth. And as it has been of old, that messengers went constantly from Horeb to the Lord's places, so did they also continue to do. And by this means, all the affairs of the lower heaven were kept in harmony, lords and God. And God ruled Horeb for 400 years, and Horeb spread over all the lands of the earth. And last chapter is chapter 23 or chapter XXIII, and it's 17 verses. When the God when the time of God and his host was fulfilled, Jehovah brought the earth into Dan of Eon in the ark Laus, whose angels descended in a ship of fire and delivered God his lords, and all the hosts under them who were prepared for the Ethereal resurrection. At this time, there were in atmosphere 625 million inhabitants, and the number of the second harvest was 280 million. And after the manner of the ascent of the first harvest, so was the ascent of the second harvest. And the place of the landing of the second harvest in the firmament of heaven was Lais and Ben, and the grade of the harvest was 78, being two less than the grade of the first harvest. So in the heavens of the earth, so the heavens of the earth passed into the care of succeeding gods and lords who had been raised up, prepared therefore. And for the present, there were no more Etherians dwelling in these regions. Jehovah had said, "They that come out of the earth shall be sufficient unto themselves. As a mother provideth for her child, so do I provide for the spirit generations of a corporal world. But when they are mature in wisdom, strength, and love, I command them to take the places of lords and gods in the management of my kingdoms." And so it came to pass after the ascent of the Etherians, the whole earth and its lower heavens were under the dominion of such as had sprung up out of the earth. Hence it became a saying: the first was Etherian rule, the second was atmospherian rule, for the earth had lords who had been on no other world, and a God who had been on no other worlds. And it likewise came to pass that the atmospherian rulers were more lenient and less tyrannical than their government had been the Etherians. Let me read the whole verse again. Verse 6. And it likewise came to pass that the atmospherian rulers were more lenient and less tyrannical in their government than had been the Etherians. For as the Etherians had forbidden the Ezians, the newly dead, to return to their mortal kindred, even to the 50th year in spirit life, so not with the present lords and gods, for they indulge hundreds of Ezians for sympathy's sake to return to their mortal kindred. Oh, listen, this just reminded me of something that we read all the way at the end of the book. Remember how we was talking about um hold on. Um what book is it? I want to say I forget the book, but it was talking about how uh who would be the better. I think it's in the book of, I'm trying to remember. I think it's within the book of Shalom where it's talking about it. Like who would be, they were asking questions on who would be um better in charge of taking care of the orphans. Would it be someone that's already had children, right, or somebody who's never had children? Before we read on, I gave my input. I'm like, well, clearly somebody who's already had kids, because I got experience, right? I know how to treat my kids. Making sure, how can somebody come in that don't have kids really have any kind of input? That was my thing. But lo and behold, and it's interesting because I think Jeremiah came down here. I mentioned, no, he didn't come down here. I mentioned him, and I gave the analogy on how he's a lot harder on his brothers and sisters than what his father and what I am on them, at least in his mindset. He said, y'all too soft on them. He said, where's the James and Pam from when me and Elijah was kids? Y'all ain't give us all these extra chances. They got all these contraptions and electronics and stuff. He said, if y'all don't take that stuff away from them and make them do their work, and we sitting there looking at them like, who the parents? You or us? And Jeremiah, he's just like, I don't know. He said, y'all needs to get a better hold over y'all children. This is Jeremiah, my 19-year-old, right? He was like, boy, get on out of here. But when we was reading that, I could see, because we tend to, as we have more children, right? We tend to have a little bit more leniency. We grow a little bit softer, or it could be that they didn't worn us down a little bit. And it's like, I just pick my battles with them, right? It really depends. We're still kind of strict, but not as strict as we were like with the first two. And they see the difference, and Elijah be like, incredible. This is incredible. He said, we never get away. He said, you just let them have their toys down to the end of the day, and you just pick it up before they go to bed. He said, what was this reasoning that when we were younger? Listen, hold on. Eo, Eoptian, 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 Eoptian. Okay, thank you for that. Did I say that right? Eoptian, Eoptian. I may have said that right. I think I did. By the way you spelled it out, Eoptian. Okay. So, but this reminds me of that right here, where it says, hold on, let me go back up. Verse 6, page 36. And it likewise came to pass that the atmospherian rulers were more lenient and less tyrannical in their government than had been the Etherians. For as the Etherians had forbidden the Ezians, the newly dead, to return to their mortal kindred, even to the 50th year, 50, even to the 50th year in spirit life, so not so with the present lords and gods, for they indulge hundreds of thousands of Ezians for sympathy's sake to return to their mortal kindred. Yeah, right. So I can kind of see that, and just thinking about things that happen in my house and how we relate and discipline, and just and sometimes they think, the older ones think, well, we should move a whole lot faster than what we're doing. I'm just like, boy, calm down. You got all this energy and all this stuff. He said, like y'all did when y'all had us when y'all was younger. He said, find that same energy and express it here in this situation. I just be cracking up laughing. But he has a point. So I'm just like, well, shoot, he got a point. All right, listen. For as the Etherians had forbidden the Ezians, the newly dead, to return to their mortal kindred, even to the 50th year in spirit life, so not so with the present lords and gods, for they indulge hundreds of thousands of Ezians for sympathy's sake to return to their mortal kindred. And these Ezians became not workers in heaven, either for others or for their own resurrection to higher regions, but they became idlers and vagabonds in the lower heaven, oft living with their mortal kindred till their mortal kindred died, and then in turn persuading such Ezians to do even as they did. Yeah. That's what's happening here. Clearly, even up until this generation of Cosmon, right? We can clearly tell, because family members then pass. I know some family members that's done passed, and they be coming to me like, bro, I know it ain't been 5 years. Why are you talking to me? Right? And we read about that. I think it's the book of Divinity, where they said for 5 years, at least 5 years, that they can't come back to talk to their mortal kindred. But I'm just like, yeah. So just I'm looking at a lot of this stuff and some of my experiences, just to trying to trying to understand everything. Verse 7. And God perceived when it was too late that his leniency had laid the foundation for disorganizing the kingdom of heaven, for the strolling idlers, knowing no other heaven, sowed the spirit of disbelief in the places of learning and industry in the lower heaven, persuading others that were toiling to no good purpose. They said, behold, it was told us on earth there was a Jehovah, but we are in heaven, and yet we find him not. No, now do we know of a truth, there is no all person. Come then, let us seek ease and the rich viands that rise up out of the earth. A man liveth on the earth and dieth, and his spirit floateth around about, and there is no more of him. Why will ye serve the Lord? Why will ye serve God? Be ye free and live for yourselves instead of others. Thus it came to pass that little by little the lower heaven began to fall from its high estate. The third Dan was 600 years, and God and his lords, having provided successors, ascended with their harvest to Etheria, and the number thereof was 408,000,000 brides and bridegrooms, and their grade was 66. Geez, that's a nice little gap, falling from the previous two graduated the previous two graduated classes. They now at grade 66, and the number thereof was 408,000,000 brides and bridegrooms, and their grade was 66. The fourth Dan was 500 years, and the harvest was 600 million brides and bridegrooms, and their grade was 58. Shoot, you got to be at least 50 to rise. The fifth Dan was 300 years, and the harvest was 200 million, and their grade was 50, which was the lowest capable, which was the lowest grade capable of emancipation or capable of surviving in Ethera. And that's the lowest grade because this is based on the grading scale is based on whether you serve yourself or whether you serve others. So if you get grade 50, that means you have served yourself and have served others. You're like an even balance right here, right? You should be teetering more on the higher side, but that's the lowest grade capable of rising to ethereal. Like you just made it, G, by the skin of your teeth. If there was such a thing, if teeth had skin, I'm just like, sheesh. The fifth Dan was 300 years, and the harvest was 200 million, and their grade was 50, which was the lowest grade capable of emancipation or capable of surviving in Ethera. And now darkness set in and covered all the earth around. And from this time until the end of the cycle, which was 3,000 years from the birth of man on earth, there were no more resurrections to the emancipated heavens. Sheesh. The kingdom of Horeb was broken up and dissolved. The spirits loved not to labor and to learn according to Jehovah's plan, but returned to the earth attractions. And after earth attractions is reference number 13, or earth ornaments. The kingdom of Horeb was broken up and dissolved. The spirits loved not to labor and to learn according to Jehovah's plan, but to return to the earth attractions, and they were called Druhas because they desired not resurrection. And God and the lords and their officers and teachers were without subjects and pupils, and mortals were beset by thousands and millions of Druhas, so that the Ashars were powerless to accomplish good inspiration. At this time, there were more than 3,000 million angels in atmosphere, and for the most part, they dwelt on earth. Thus ended the first cycle of the first heaven of the earth. End of book of Sathantes, son of Jehovah. That was good. I surely got way more out of this book this second time around than I did the first time. The first time I'm just reading, trying to understand terms and stuff, and just kind of reading through it. I'm picking up a little bit, but I surely got a whole lot more out of this second time around. So it's good to do that. If you read it once just to get the base story down and go through and just kind of enjoy it the second time. Look, all right, y'all. We're gonna pause right here. Let me put this right here. We're gonna read a little bit of what you call it. This took us right to the hour mark. What is this? Page 37. Okay, so let's hop over to the field guide to the spirit world. We paused on page 88 after some of these killers, this list of killers. Okay. I know, right? She said, yes, I had this stuff highlighted, but don't remember reading it. Yeah. Like that's why I said I got to pull out a different highlighter, because I highlighted it the first time, but it hits totally different the second time going through it. Now it's assimilated down into my shanana just a little bit more, right? It's good. All right. Page 88, y'all. We're in in chapter 4, which is entitled Soul Murder. And yesterday it gave us quite a few examples of criminals with who they just kind of, what's the word? They didn't, I ain't gonna say they didn't try to do any kind of fighting, but at this point they were just kind of following what the voices said in their head, right? It was like they were made to do it, and hence the title, The Devil Made Me Do It, yesterday, right? So a lot of them, they've fallen so low to now they're not even really trying to fight against the voices that they're hearing. It seems like they're being driven to do it, and it seems like they have no power to stop it. So if it said just take your car and run it off the bridge, that's what they do, you know. Speaking of that, my husband yesterday, he said, "Hey, you remember that guy that ran into all them people with his car?" I said, "Yeah," and I believe it was I could be wrong. I think it may have been during one of the Black Lives Matter marches or something. I could have it wrong. But remember that guy who took his car, and I want to say, I forget where it was. He ran into all those people. Quite a bit of people were hurt. But anyway, they sentenced him, I want to say yesterday. He said, "Babe," he said, "guess how many years they gave this dude?" I said, "How many?" He said they gave him 6 life sentences plus 700 years. I'm like, what? And y'all know a life sentence, you can outlive a life sentence. A life sentence is only 20 years, right? You can outlive 2 life sentences, which is 40 years. A parade, okay, it was a parade, okay. I know that's why I wasn't too sure. I didn't go back and look it up, but I vaguely remembered it when he brought it up. And some people rarely ever outlive 3 life sentences, right? So probably for each person that he hurt, there was a charge. So he got 6 life sentences: 20, 40, 60, 80, 100, 120. That's 120 years plus 700 years on top of that. That is 820 years. Maggie, you going into Hada still in bondage. You're going to finish serving out your time there and they're going to see to it. Like, hold on, no, you still got about, hold on, because how old is he now? I'm not sure how old is he now, but he may not make it through the second life term. So he's still gonna have about 600, about no 700 something years by the time he going to Hada. That's my thinking. That I'm just saying he gonna have to serve that time out, and all them people is gonna be waiting on him. He is, she bro. He gonna be in jail in the afterlife. I mean, it's not funny, but I make jokes about everything. I'm sorry. I try not to be too ignorant. But I'm just saying, if you think about it, what we learning now, dude is literally, he's going into the afterlife still in jail. Like, yeah, it's like, it's crazy. Okay. Page 88. The element of overshadowing, moreover, is betrayed by the baffling lack of motive. It was done without a reason. Kapler's victims taken at random. His murderous acts were, quote, completely irrational, purposeless, and motiveless. He was incapable of controlling his conduct, end quote. Abloh, 1994, page 134. In any other place or time, this would be called possession. In fact, according to the guidelines laid out for priestly rites of exorcism, John Kapler exhibited unmistakable signs of demonic possession: voices, spells of unusually rapid speech, corporelia, which is, that's crazy because I just heard somebody scream on the TV. Cheesy peaks. Corporelia, and in parentheses it has screaming obscenities and exaggerated grimacing. Abloh, 1994, page 59, 106, and 53. Concerning the latter, some have counted facial distortion as the first sign of possession. I concur. This, according to the psychiatrist M. Scott Peck, can only be, quote, described as satanic, an incredibly contemptuous grin of hostile malevolence, a ghastly expression blazing with hatred, end quote. Peck, 1983, page 184 and 188. Compared to compare this to the grisly grimaces and, quote, crocodile smile, end quote, of Russia's Red Ripper. 53 kills. Our own homegrown rapist, murderer, Joe Callinger, the shoemaker, whose face would become, quote, distorted by weird expressions, facial grimaces, end quote. Schreiber, 1984, page 90, 95, and page 371. Though old school Christians blame the devil himself for, quote, distorting the face into a strange demonic cast, end quote. Christianity, 1961, page 70. The more modern exorcist recognizes this kind of grimacing as, quote, the ghastly paranormal expression. end quote. Peck, excuse me, Peck 2005, page 114 of A Possessing Entity. Whatever the whatever the automatisms that may erupt, it is their involuntary nature that interests us most. This is particularly relevant to the seemingly motiveless crime. Such cases remain unsolved to this extent. The motive is still in shadow. The unusual reasons are just not there: jealousy, rage, revenge, greed, rivalry. Quote, the motive thing was a real head scratcher, end quote. Tim Cahill, Buried Dreams. I'm wondering what type of motive, if there was one, for this guy who ran over all these people in this parade, right? I'm interested. I'll try and be following that for some time, because you know how after something like this happens, just like Jeffrey Dahmer, there is always somebody that comes and wants to talk to the killer to get into their mind just to figure out what in the world they was thinking. Like, I really want to see, like, if this particular guy was one of the ones that he just had this urge, like he had like no motive. It was just, he just went out here and did it. But I'm sure, even with that, there's something that's happened in this person's life that caused them to be open and susceptible to these type of voices, to where they found no control over themselves, where they actually had to carry something out like this, right? Not only are the experts at a loss for motive or reason, quote, there can be no rational explanation, end quote. Olson, 1983, page 70. But the killer himself often does not know what moves him to such violence. Quote, it's senseless, end quote. Chris Longo replied when asked to explain the motive of his crime, familicide, adding, quote, it should never have happened, and I'm fighting every day to figure that out. I don't I don't think that I'll ever know. End quote. Finkel, 2005, page 304. Quote, what the hell is wrong with him? End quote. Arthur Shawcross's psychiatrist. Olson, page Olson, 1993, page 456. Arthur Shawcross, with that strange blank innocence that we sometimes see in the bearing of the human monster, cannot account for his own crimes. There was no self serving legal feint. Asked what he was thinking when he strangled those prostitutes in Rochester, New York, quote, I don't know. I was, in a fog, end quote. In prison, the former fishing buff and do-gooder was genuinely tormented. Quote, why I did it, end quote. Interviewed by numerous specialists, some driving hard for an explanation, the brown-eyed killer with the puppy dog look could only say, quote, it just happened. I just lost control of everything around me, end quote. Olson, 1993, page 467 and page 484. Prince Yehuda, shalom. Key Yeager, hey. BC, shalom, shalom. Quote, I had no reason to commit the murders, end quote. Robert Ressler quotes John Wayne Gacy. As far as Agent Ressler was concerned, quote, the emotional components of stranger murder seemed incomprehensible, beyond rational understanding, end quote. Ressler, 1997, page 46. Well, then, if we can't find a rational cause, let's look for an irrational one. Where is the rule that says sociopaths act rationally? As one detective said, quote, you can't use logic to tell what happened. You can't use logic to tell you what these people are thinking, end quote. Barber, 2002, page 128. The perpetrator himself may be the most baffled of all. Let's take time to search like this. Okay, so it's giving us another list of different killers. Bobby Joe Long, quote, I could never kill anyone. Morris in 2004, page 165 and page 168. He killed 8 people. Quote, quote, I killed a bunch of sluts and whores and I don't even know why. End quote. Arthur Shawcross. I don't know. I'm thinking about putting it as the title. I don't know. That might be a bit much. I don't know. Let me think about this. You know, I gotta have some kind of catchy title. It ain't clickbait because we actually talk about what the title says some point in time throughout the video. Look, Arthur Shawcross quote: "How could anybody think I'd hurt a kid?" End quote. Arthur's first two kills were children. Ken Bianchi's author said, quote, "He couldn't figure out what he had done and why. I wouldn't let him remember," end quote. O'Brien, 1985, page 145. Richard Ivers, quote, "I don't know that I have done it," end quote. Archer, 1967, page 100. The I-5 killer, quote, "I'm not a violent person," end quote. Rule, 1988A, page 130. Albert, Albert DeSalvo, the Boston Strangler, quote, "What really happened to me? I want them to find out why I did these things," end quote. Frank, 1966, page 340, page 317. John Wayne Gacy, quote, "The idea that I am a homosexual thrill killer and all that garbage, that I stalked young boys and slaughtered them. Hell, if you could see my work schedule, you'd know damn well that I was never out there." End quote. Well, somebody got your body out there, buddy. Because he killed how many? I think 33. He killed 33 boys. What was that? Probably in a previous chapter, that one chart. But anyway, I think he killed 33. Okay. Sure, Gary was a workaholic, but he found the time, lost time, to kill 33 boys. Then, when the overwhelming evidence of their crimes is before them or flashbacks break through, the same murderers are at a loss to explain their acts. And it's going through some more. Bobby Joe Long, quote, "I couldn't stop myself," end quote. Vronsky, 2004, page 287. Shawcross, quote, "I don't know why I butchered her," end quote. Olson, 1993, page 484. DeSalvo, quote, "Why I done it, I don't really understand," end quote. Frank, 1966, page 283. Gacy, "Searching for a motive was like," quote, "looking into a fog, like working a jigsaw puzzle," end quote. T. Kyle Hill, 1987, page 174. Joe Rifkin, he had, quote, "no idea why he killed," end quote. Kerwin, 1997, page 65. Henry Lee Lucas, quote, "I don't know why I committed this crime," end quote. Cox, 1991, page 51. Solly, wife killer, quote, I know I did what I did, but I don't believe it. It makes no sense," end quote. Blinder, 1985, page 16. When you come right down to it, most of these senseless crimes are committed during lost time, right? Remember, they're in a sunken place, and half the time they don't remember. They call that lost time. So some people go into that sunken place. It could be Friday, and they may not wake up to next Thursday, and they can't tell you what's happened, but their body done been caught on cameras all up and down downtown, and you done traveled state lines and stuff. Like, what? Like, yeah, that's lost time. You can't remember how you got to a place. You like lost days. That's considered lost time, right? That's a clear indication that there's another entity residing on the inside of your flesh vehicle, your body, right? Okay, Uncle JB, shalom, shalom. Look, do y'all think killing, cannibalism, comes the mixing of human races? I don't know. Do y'all think killing or cannibalism comes from mixing the human races? I don't know. Let me think about it. Killing. I don't know. I'm just thinking about a lot of different things that could possibly happen. I mean, it I don't think like it's the sole thing. Remember the Drukes? Yeah. Okay. Okay. I mean, I get. I mean, I guess, but I wouldn't. I don't know. That's a good question because it's a lot of um. I don't know if we go back that far, like we would have to go back far. I mean, it could. I don't see why not. Not saying it's like the sole purpose, but I guess that could be. I mean, that's just like you hanging around with certain groups of people. Say if you have a good character, raised in a good family, it could mixing with the wrong type of environments. It may not. I don't know. A lot of things could cause this. I mean, does it fall in there? Possibly, especially if you mix with some that are of the tyrannical nature, right? They just known to do bad stuff. That could be passed down through bloodlines or whatever, mixing with different types of bloodlines. Not saying like DNA wise things pass down because we know some things are passed down via DNA, but it's just like a parent being fat raising fat children. It's like things that are modeled. I think it could be. It's like a mix of stuff. I mean, it could be. I don't know that's the cause, but it could be because where are these actions coming from? The origin. Well, I don't know. See, I really think it has more to do with the spiritual side. Not that we totally discount the flesh and nature as we reproduce, but a lot of things happen on the spiritual side that induce some things to happen here in the flesh. I don't know. But I think it has more to do with the spiritual side of things. That's what I believe. It really has more to do with the spiritual side of things and what people have opened themselves up to versus actually reproducing with another race. I don't know. Yeah, spirits and grafting themselves on the people. Yeah, that's what I think it has more to do with. It could be a mix of both. I don't know. I'm not an expert. I'm just saying from my observation. I think it has more to do with what's happened in the spiritual realm, and what they're into and what they've been opened up to. Okay, let me see. On page 91, and we're going to pause probably like at the end of this. It's trying to probably at the end of this next. I think that keeps going. We'll see. Hold on. I'm gonna find a good place to stop where I can break. Okay. Page 91, middle of the page. When you come right down to it, most of these senseless crimes are committed during lost time, blanked out, a fall, no memory, even, quote, ordinary, end quote, crimes of passion are frequently committed in lost time. A British study estimates that in as much as 60% of murders, the accused was amnesic for the event, what psychology calls fugue or temporary disassociation. Victim of multiple head injuries, Ken Bianchi, for example, was prone to the fugue state. Quote, he simply cannot accept, understand, remember, or believe that he, such a good boy, could possibly do such crimes. Ken knows nothing of the crimes, end quote. O'Brien, 1985, page 261. Ken was supposedly epileptic in childhood. A small temporal lobe cyst showed up on the MRI of Arthur Shawcross. At his trial, Dr. Dorothy Lewis argued that his cyst indicates a form of epilepsy called partial complex seizure state, causing Arthur to fall into the fugue state. Note that Gacy, Danny S., Ramirez, Bianchi, and others were all thought to be epileptic as children, but Were their seizures really epilepsy, or did they fall into the void, the outer zone just beyond the physical? In favoring a paranormal interpretation of epilepsy, as discussed in the introduction and elsewhere, we see a link to certain automatisms that accompany seizures. Hyperaxia, for example, as in Gacy's state, as a teenager, he was put on phenobarb and Dilantin to medicate his quote epilepsy end quote. His doctors told him that when he had a seizure, he became immensely powerful. Without factoring ASCs or altered states of consciousness and their automatisms into the equation, we cannot understand the blackouts, amnesia, and loss of control that are standard fare in the brutal sociopathic personality. Fight or flight, given the childhood of killers who were abused or over controlled, is it any wonder that the flight option so often results in the fused state? ACSs are common in those who have not survived their toxic upbringing very well, and that includes Dan White, John List, Richard Ramirez, Arthur Shawcross, Albert DeSalvo, John Wayne Gacy, excuse me, John Wayne Gacy, Henry Lee Lucas, Dean Corll, Joe Callinger, Diane Downs, Ken Bianchi, and many more given to altered states, all terribly susceptible to that elsewhereness that puts one in the orbit of the disembodied world, the outer darkness. And you can see that if you watch the movie Get Out, when he's sitting in that chair and when he first drops into that sunken place, it's a void, and he's like forever falling in darkness. And he goes all the way back, and she's like looking, like she's standing in his face looking at him, but he's like all the way in the dark void, like he's many miles away, looking up through his eye holes while she's standing up in his face, like, hey, now you're in the sunken place. We about to use your body. And what was funny, it's no disrespect to any people, but I had to watch this movie a couple times before I got that they were taking black people and using their bodies. Some of the older white men or whatever, and some of the older white women, they would look for young black people and they would literally take over their bodies. And I didn't catch that to the second time. I was like, wait a minute, hold on, let me go back. I said, wait, was that dude? Wait a minute. It was like, how you liking your new body? Oh my gosh, look at this strong, strapping black body, and doing all this. I'm like, wait a minute. Is that what they doing? They trying to they trying to switch their souls from their body that's about to give out to a black body that's nice and strong and fit. Nene Shalom says, y'all gotta go watch it. But yeah, that shows that the void there. Oh my gosh, y'all keep that snow where y'all are at. I don't care if I never see snow another day in my life. And we're going through like this little cold spell here in Virginia. I'm like, oh my gosh. It's like I want to go back to Hawaii. Listen, okay, let me go back to this. Let's see. With altered states, loss of control and of memory are typical as we survey the fractured world of the sociopath. But since our legal system of punishment demands a psychiatric verdict of sanity, knowing right from wrong in order to convict them, these offenders must be considered in control of themselves. And this is precisely why FBI profilers and forensic psychiatrists argue incorrectly that the violent predator is primarily motivated by a conscious desire for complete control over his victim. Quote, if you commit violent crimes, you do so by choice. Killing becomes the ultimate act of control, end quote, says Douglas and Old Shaker in Obsession, 1998, page 34. Quote, manipulation, domination, control, end quote, is now the mantra of profilers who make a point of quoting such celebrated predators as Ted Bundy, who confessed his need to wholly control and dominate women. Nevertheless, during the manhunt for Bundy, quote, Psychiatrists were more inclined to believe that the killer was a man obsessed by a terrible compulsion, emphasis added, that forced him to hunt down and kill the same type of woman over and over and over again. End quote. Rule 1986, page 131. Bundy himself explained on death row that, quote, he received no pleasure from harming his victims, end quote. In fact, his crimes filled him with, quote, disgust, repulsion, fear, and wonder, end quote. Vronsky, 2004, page 120, page 318. Certainly, the accoutrements of bondage, ropes, handcuffs, gagging, deployed in some of these vicious assaults, display the most venal kind of subjugation. Granted, the quest for power and command seem to be foremost in all such crimes, but if we scratch the surface, it becomes clear that the so called thrill, the passion for domination, quote, the godlike rush of power over another person, end quote, Markman and Bosco, 1989, page 44, is not really enjoyed. Rather, it comes unbidden. This is the nature of dissociative acts. Commenting on killer Richard Macek, Dr. Morrison notes, quote, Macek had very little internal self-control, end quote. 2004, page 34 through 35. Quote, for heaven's sake, catch me before I kill more. I cannot control myself. Word, end quote. Words scrawled on wall with the lipstick of one of William Hiram's victims. From Douglas and Oahspe, Mindhunter, page 126. Quote, I kept praying someone would see the license plate number and call the police, end quote. Danny S. admitted after his crimes, which he described as, quote, feeling myself losing control. It was something else taking over control of my body. I get that panicky feeling. I could no more stop it than I could stop my heart from beating, end quote. Nathan Smith, 1995, page 31, 144, 365. Quote, don't let me out. I know I'll kill again, end quote. Declaimed Henry Lee Lucas, the one-eyed drifter killer, while yet another, John Hobart, acted, quote, as if by rote, end quote, during his murderous forays. He, quote, was glad that he had been apprehended, for he was sure that he would have killed again. He could not restrain his impulses. Indeed, he was diagnosed 301.20, meaning schizoid with compulsive features, end quote. Wrestler, 1992, pages 120 to 122. Peter Kuchrin, Germany's Jack the Ripper, could not remember most of his killings upon his capture. Quote, he seemed almost grateful to the police, saying, quote, if you had not arrested me when you did, I know I would have to take another life, end quote. Archer, 1967, page 94. Chikatilo, the Russian Ripper, who took 53 lives, said, quote, everything I have done makes me tremble. I feel only gratitude that they captured me, end quote. Conradi, 1992, page 101. Is it any surprise then that Chris Longo, familicide, described his capture as, quote, a big weight off my shoulders, end quote, while Arthur Shawcross, who, quote, seemed to have the impulse, quote, hold on, while Arthur Shawcross, who, quote, seemed to have the impulse control of a barracuda, end quote, would admit while anticipating his parole hearing, the biggest fear that was he, quote, would get out and kill another child, end quote. Olson, 1993, page 149. Some, in fact, turned themselves in for this very reason, as did Ed Kemper, California's co-ed killer, after murdering and beheading his own mother. No, you can't use that. Get one of them smaller ones. Matter of fact, don't even put it back in there. Let me see that. Thank you. Yep. Let me get that. Yep. Okay. Y'all, we're going to pause right here. On page 94, right here at the middle. Yes, you can, girl. So we'll pick this back up with this paragraph. Given our punitive retaliatory code of justice. Yeah.
So I found your iPad.
Where is it? Is it on the charger? Okay, thank you. All right, y'all. And we're gonna pause right here because we at yeah, I gotta get going now in a little bit. So I think that was a good place to stop. And this chapter tomorrow. Ooh, I ain't seen this. I wonder when I listen to this if it read over this. I don't know. I came across page 101, 12 steps to raise a delinquent child. Oh, that's gonna be good. We might get to that tomorrow. We might be able to read that tomorrow. Okay, we're gonna pause right here, y'all. All right, so hold on. We'll do that in a second too. All right, it is Friday, November the 18th, 2022, day 265 of year 4. Reading through the books of the law and the prophets and of the 4-year consecutive day count, day 1285. We finished reading the book of Sathantes found in Oahspe today, pages 33 to 37. And we read a little bit more of chapter 4 in the field guide to the spirit world, entitled Soul Murder, pages 88 to 94.
Mom.
It was something I wanted to. I can't even remember, but it was something. It was something else I wanted to share with y'all today. Yes, Tootie.
Are you getting closer to the bottom?
Yes, I just kind of filled all that out. It'll come back. It wasn't that important, but it's just something it was just one of those little one-off things that I want to share with y'all. All right, y'all. But that is it for today. Father, we thank you for the womb of our earthly mother, because without it, neither would we be born into the spirit realm. All right. So with that being said, beautiful people, I love y'all. I will see y'all tomorrow. We will be here at 6:15 as well. Stop, Tootie. I'm about to put you up here so you can get it. We will be back here at 6:15 tomorrow because I do have to go into the campus tomorrow as well. Believe it or not, my professor last Saturday, right? They said, okay, he sent a memo to everybody. So of course you go and you check your emails and all that stuff because that's how they say they're going. Professor, if he has any notes, keep you updated. Okay. So when your term is virtual, you still have to come into class one day during the term where they make it mandatory. You have to sign in from the school's computers and everything, right? It's kind of like an accountability thing. So they told us the professor sent a memo saying last Saturday we had to come in. That was our mandatory day. So I was like, okay, cool. So went in there, and so we go online, and half the people, their backgrounds, I see, I'm like, they look like they're at home. And the other half of the class, I could tell they was in ECPI, right? A couple was in like the other room because they got different computer rooms you can kind of just pick and go in to log in. I'm like, why half of us at home and half of us seem like we at the school? And then the professor said, well, I can see who read the memo and who didn't. Those who had read the memo, he put the wrong date. It was supposed to be tomorrow, this Saturday. And so the other ones who were at home, they apparently didn't read the memo because the memo said, I'll see you all on campus on what was last Saturday, right? So I opened them. I'm like, okay, cool. First class of the semester, we got to be on campus, which it actually wasn't. He mistyped the date. It was supposed to be the second Saturday of class, right? So that was kind of, I'm like, huh. So now I got to go in twice. So, which is why I got to be out of here early tomorrow too. So we'll start at 6:15 tomorrow. We're going to end it promptly at 7:15 because I got to be there by 8:30. All right, y'all. So with that being said, I love y'all. Shebrew said, hey, Princess Bella.
Hey.
I think I told you that already. Princess is actually her first name. Bella is actually her middle name. Princess Ariel is her first name. All right, y'all. I love y'all. I'll see y'all back here tomorrow. See everybody saying their byes and all that good stuff. BC Mindhunter. It's on Netflix. I be taking note of all these movies y'all telling me about, and I go back and watch them. Eventually. All right, but I'm definitely. What's that? Hold on. Mindhunter. I'll write that down. Mindhunter and Hide and Seek. Those are the new two that I gotta check out. Cause I ain't seen them. All right, y'all. That's it. I love y'all. See y'all back here tomorrow morning, bright and early, 6:15 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Peace. Go ahead, girl. End it. Peace, love, light, and balance, people. Balance in all things.
I cannot put it like that.
Hmm.
I cannot put